Welcome to the Fort Worth Portrait Project's daily program. I'm Anthony Mosley. I'm the king of the Fort Worth Portrait Project, or something like that. Director, founder. I'll probably give myself a new title every day as we roll throughout this series. I had been doing an Anthony Mosley's 1,000 Day Journey Toward Love program, but decided to roll that over into a daily program featuring more of Fort Worth, since that's kind of what I was doing anyway with that program itself. So welcome to the very first episode. I won't number these episodes, but hopefully it will be a daily series that's behind the scenes of what I do as I explore life and live life here in the wonderful town of Fort Worth. I think my historical precedent for this is probably Samuel Pepys' diary, the guy who chronicled life in London back in the day, whenever that was. So perhaps historians will look back on this odd collection of videos to just see what one person experienced as he lived out life here in North Texas. One real quick announcement. I have a wonderful voucher that I got at DFW Airport during Orange Wednesday. This is the day that they gave out 1,000 of these, including an entire week's worth of parking during the holiday seasons. So 7 days, this voucher is worth $168, and yours truly will not be using this because I'll be right here in Fort Worth during that time. So I'm willing to exchange this voucher worth $168 for, how about a gift certificate to Half Price Books? That would rock. So how much would that gift certificate be? I don't know. Make me an offer. And you can make me an offer right on the Facebook page for the Fort Worth Portrait Project. So just go to Fort Worth Portrait Project on Facebook and send me a message. I do have another voucher that is for 20% off a round-trip flight from Dallas, Fort Worth to Reykjavik, Iceland. But anyway, it has to be used during a certain time. In fact, September 1st to October 31st of 2018. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. So there we have that. So I look forward to hearing from you. It is a rainy morning here on December the 23rd, 2017. I have been taking people to, or took one guy at least, to the DFW Airport so far this morning. A guy who, and there's my next ride. So we are out of here and we will chat later. He was going to Montana, where it's going to be much colder. So I'm glad it's not so cold here in Texas. All right, take care. So I'm sitting here near the TCU campus on this rainy Friday morning at 10:24 and was listening to a little bit of Mozart in between rides. Actually Beethoven, a little bit of Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake. I think Chopin was in the mix. Pandora is a free app that comes as part of the Google app. So occasionally I'll put some good music on, if I'm not listening to stand-up comedy or something else to pass the time. But for some reason I was just reflecting on why this thing is hanging down from the ceiling. But that's actually my plug-in from my dashboard cam. Was reflecting on a metaphor, and the metaphor is one of a magnificent cathedral that, let's say, takes 70 years to build. And there is always optimism surrounding the construction of a cathedral like this. So you've got a plot of land, and at the very early stages, there are loads of supplies that are brought in. Supplies that are meant to serve as foundation stones, stones to begin erecting the walls, hopefully in time, flying buttresses that will support the height of those walls, eventually stained glass pieces by the thousands to construct a glorious work of art, pipe organ pieces, of course, all that stuff that goes into it. And what happens is that all of these materials are brought to the site. But in my metaphor, there are raiders who constantly plunder the construction site. So You bring in 5,000 stones to service the foundation, let's just say in the first couple of years of the construction project. And maybe 500 of those are still around in the terrible twos of this construction process. Maybe after the third year, some of those give way as well. The stones that were brought in to service the walls, those also are plundered. So maybe you have 10,000 of those, and maybe 3,000 are left after 6 months if you're lucky. So there is a constant process of having to resupply the building supplies on the site, and it's ongoing. It's just always part of the process. Some cathedrals continue to replenish those supplies. The building continues. In time, the foundation is laid and it's solid. In time, the walls are constructed and they do what they intend to do. They hold the structure up. The roof is in place. The windows are installed. The pipe organ, even though it's been plundered many times, eventually gets 5,000-6,000 pipes and is up to 154 ranks or whatever. And the whole cathedral, in time, begins to function as a cathedral, and is not just functional, but it's also glorious. So that's the goal. Now, my metaphor as I'm here on the TCU campus is, I think that's what the educational process and what society wants to produce in individual people, or in students in this case, to build a marvelously functioning person who in some respects is glorious in some ways and isn't just a complete dud in society. But what I was thinking about in particular is all the stuff that I have forgotten over the years. In fact, I was just thinking about 8th grade history for some reason, and was wondering if my 8th grade teacher ever dropped this profound bit of knowledge on the class that we simply weren't able to pick up or appreciate at the time, especially me in particular. I don't think that was the case. I think everything was probably pretty straight cut and basic, but I started thinking, what do I remember from 8th grade history in particular? So these building supplies for an entire year were brought to the construction site. For me personally, how much of that stuff actually went into my permanent cathedral as a person? Probably very little. I remember that my notes were a mess. I remember the phrase that Hitler was an oratorical genius, which is scary because the course was American history in the 8th grade. But whatever, that's the one thing I remember. And something about the transcontinental railway and the spike in Utah that united the continent. I think those are the two main things that I remember, aside from Meta Harris barfing all over her desk in the front of class after eating a fudgesicle too fast after lunch. Aside from those three things, then, American history from the 8th grade was lost on me. But of course, there was the 11th grade, and I think much of that was lost on me as well. So part of what I'm doing in the Fort Worth Portrait Project in this behind-the-scenes series is re-exploring some of the topics to try to bring, once again, some of those grand building supplies back on site so that I can hopefully become a better, more functioning cathedral of, I don't know if glory is the right word, but certainly not a dud, something that looks like an abandoned property in Detroit these days or something like that. Anyway, some thoughts motivated by Mozart and Beethoven and Tchaikovsky here on the TCU campus as I wait for my next Uber ride. Let's do some driving around the TCU campus since I'm waiting for a ride. In this general neighborhood, most of the students have abandoned the premises. So that's why this might be a fun opportunity to see what campus is like when nobody's on it. Beginning with construction of, I think, the business building over here on the left. behind the Robert Carr Chapel area. Always fascinates me how places change depending upon the event. I used to think about that a lot in high school. I would go to a basketball game on let's say a Thursday night. The gym was hot, it was crowded, it was full of energy, the pep band was there. And then on Friday morning for PE, we're sitting in the same gym 14 hours later or so. Quiet, dank, musty, echoey. The energy that had been there was now filled with the dread of whatever we were going to have to do that day for PE, I'm sure. But a campus like this takes on a different feel when there aren't students here. And it's different in the summer too. There's certainly less people, but it's not quite this abandoned. And at least the weather is brighter, cheerier, versus this gloom and kind of wintry, overcast look that we've got going on today. My GoPro is mounted to my ceiling here in the car, kind of wedged it right in front of the windshield. And the windshield has a blue, one of those kind of graduated filter, keep the sun out of your eyes, which looks totally natural on a sunny day. But on a gray day like this, then it's more noticeable that there's that strip of blue that descends down into the picture. I'll pull into here. This is 15-minute parking area. Pick up a lot of rides in here from students throughout the semester. Often they live in these surrounding dorms, and so the closest pickup location is just right down here at the very end of this driveway. But no students today, so we'll just turn around here. I think I'm going to position myself in a neighborhood where people are likely to get rides, which is generally the area surrounding TCU. So I'm still in a good location, but it's a little bit slow this morning. Figured there would be more people heading to the airport here on the Friday before Christmas, which comes up on Tuesday, I think. Maybe Monday. I don't know. Footage like this can be a little bit boring at present, if you watch it here within the next few days. But here's the thing, wouldn't it be really cool to see footage where somebody had done exactly what I'm doing now back in 1955? The ability to look back and see how things have changed. And documenting change has always been fascinating to me. When I was a former professor, I would take photographs of the trash cans occasionally in the classrooms that I taught in, with all the wrappers of Fritos, Reese's peanut butter cups, the empty cans of Mountain Dew, all that stuff. Mainly because I knew that packaging would change. And, we assume that a brand like Mountain Dew will stay around forever, but, things come and things go. So, passing along the stadium where the Armed Forces Bowl is going to be tomorrow, so I'll probably get some rides in here. I'm guessing during before and after game time, since I live so close to campus here. Let's do a quick tour of the new Greek housing area, which is online this year. There's still continuing to tear down old dorms and build new Greek houses back in this area. This is just to the south of the stadium. So I'm going to turn on to Pond Drive, P-O-N-D. And this is a great place to head when TCU is, and I just got a ride request with a little bit of surge attached, so that's cool. Okay, it is 5 minutes away, so we are done with our tour of Greek housing and off to our next ride. All right, I am heading out of Terminal C at DFW after dropping off a TCU student heading to Washington, D.C. for the Christmas break. Navigating out of the rat's maze that is the DFW Airport. It's easy to get lost back in here if you don't know where you're going, but once you find out all the little passageways, it's kind of fun to navigate. There were a ton of planes lined up ready for takeoff when I passed coming in. It's just past 1:16. I always look over at Terminal D to see if the Qantas A380 is in. I didn't see it out there yet. Might be a little bit early. Or I might have just missed it. One of the coolest things about DFW are the planes that just go right over the roads here. This is so cool. I never get over that. Look at that thing. Awesome. And I'm always grateful for civil engineers who can construct bridges to withstand that type of weight. Planes never get old for me. In fact, I was just thinking that about cars yesterday as I was driving around. The fact that I could get in my vehicle and go from one part of the town to the next just effortlessly, just sitting here. And it's enclosed. I've got a windshield. I've got glass windows that controls the environment. It's crazy. Such is life in the modern world. And I guess if somebody had been vlogging back in the 1800s in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, you might have heard some Amish guy talking about the wonders of the horse and buggy. Enclosed in the winter time and sit back and just let the horse do the work. I guess every generation has its own marvels. I hope I never become too jaded about life overall, not to appreciate the ordinary things of life. How are you? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Have a good one. All right. I've made it through the toll booth area. And the exit over there to the far right comes up very quickly, but that's the one to take if you want to do Whataburger, leaving DFW Airport on the south entrance. But that's not me today. But I saw that the San Diego State University Aztecs football team is in town for the Armed Forces Bowl. And there was a newspaper article today about the difference between Whataburger and In-N-Out. And it was about which fast food chain would be voted the top among the San Diego State University students. So I think they admitted students who were from California or Texas. They had no vote because of bias. And anyway, I think they went to a Whataburger and enjoyed that. And then they were going to do In-N-Out later and make the comparison. My take is that Whataburger blows In-N-Out out of the water. In-N-Out's good. I like their hamburgers. Fries, subpar. But there's nothing in terms of fast food that can compete with the Monterey Melt from Whataburger. It just isn't. Now I'm going to ruin all my credibility by saying that the fresh quarter pounder with cheese at McDonald's is also an excellent burger. Since they transitioned away from the frozen and went towards the fresh, just really, really, really good. All right, I've got a choice I need to make because traffic was backed up like crazy here on 183 as it was heading back to Fort Worth. So I'm going to try to get a peek around this bend if possible. Keep my speed up so give myself that option. It's looking kind of backed up. Alright, I've committed now. This is likely going to be pretty slow going, but it's not as backed up as it was just a bit ago. I probably should have taken 360 south to 30. Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that now. But it is what it is. Which gives me some time to do whatever it is I'm going to spend time doing. Mainly sitting in traffic. That's all that's going on here from the ranch. I'll touch base with you in a bit. Coming back from the airport at 4:38 p.m. Heavy rain starting to fall. At least it was a minute ago. It's kind of let up now. Another shot of going through the toll booths. See some of the dark clouds moving in from the west. I am going through the toll booths here at a little bit before 5 o'clock, having just dropped somebody off at the airport. Engineer from Lockheed Martin who's heading out to Wyoming for Christmas. Rain is really starting to come down now here in DFW. Skies towards the west are looking more dark and more ominous. And impatient drivers are honking their horns to get out of here. How are you? Good. Thank you. You too. Thank you. Alrighty. We have made it through the toll booth to live another day. This is going to be a fun drive back. In a sense, the good news is that there's likely to be heavy traffic, which means that things should slow down. As long as people don't get stupid and tailgate and not pay attention to the traffic in front of them, should be all right. However, there are humans involved in this equation. I can't tell you how many cars I've seen flipped upside down on 121 on the way to the Fort Worth, on the way back to the airport over the last year or so. I'm not sure how cars end up literally on their roofs, flipped upside down, but it happens.